The galaxy had many names for Earth. Backwater, unaligned, defenseless, a blue marble floating on the edge of nowhere, lacking fleets, lacking shields, lacking even the most basic orbital defenses. To the empires of the Orion Arm, Earth was a curiosity, a quaint relic. To predators, it was an opportunity, and when word spread that the humans had not joined any alliance, had no patrons, no protector fleets standing guard, it was only a matter of time before greed answered. The first to arrive were the Arkrath Raiders, their warships black silhouettes cutting across the starlight. Then came the Veilok Marauders, insectoid scavengers with ships that looked like nests of bone. More followed, 6 species, bound not by trust but by hunger. Forming a coalition of conquest, they had razed dozens of worlds before, none had stood. Why would Earth be different? Above the blue and green planet, their fleet gathered like a swarm of locusts blotting out the sun. Thousands of hulls gleamed, their cannons glowing like the eyes of gods. On Earth below, people looked up at the night sky and saw it filled with lights that were not stars. For the galaxy, this was the moment humanity's story would end. For the invaders, it was the beginning of easy victory. But the first sign that something was wrong came not with resistance, but with silence. On the alien flagships, commanders watched their scans. No fleets rose to meet them. No transmissions of surrender were sent. There was no desperate plea to the Galactic Council for aid. Earth was quiet. Cities continued their lives below, but with a strange stillness. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, but instead of chaos, there was order. Traffic slowed, then vanished. Skyscrapers dimmed one by one, not with destruction, but deliberate darkness. Alien generals frowned at the feeds. On every other world they had conquered, the first hours of invasion were filled with fire and screaming. But here civilians vanished into underground systems with practiced speed, as if rehearsing. Whole cities went silent, swallowed by shadow. It was not the chaos of prey. It was the calm of something waiting. From orbit, Earth's oceans gleamed, under moonlight. Its continents lay in stillness, like a planet holding its breath. A Veilok commander hissed through his mandibles. Why do they not run? Why do they not beg? The Arkrath warlord only laughed, his armored fist slamming against his chair. They are frozen with fear. This world has no warriors. We will take it in a day. Yet some among the coalition felt the weight of that silence. It was too complete, too controlled, as though the humans had not been caught unprepared, but were waiting for the invaders to make the first mistake. Still, greed drowned out doubt. The order was given. The fleets descended, blotting out the stars above Earth's skies. From the ground, humanity watched the heavens burn with alien light. Children clung to their parents. Soldiers hidden in shadow gripped their weapons, waiting for the signal that had not yet come. Across the oceans, across every nation, a single thought threaded through the silence. Let them believe we are weak. Let them make the first move. And in that moment, the galaxy's deadliest mistake was sealed. For in calling Earth defenseless, they had written their own doom. The coalition had waited long enough. Silence was unnerving, and some commanders whispered of traps, but greed drowned their caution. The order went out, and the sky above Earth ignited. The first bombardments struck the oceans. Massive rods of tungsten dropped from orbit, fell at hypersonic speeds. They tore into the seas like spears from angry gods, sending shockwaves that rose higher than skyscrapers. Tidal waves swallowed coastlines, harbors, and ships caught in the wrong place, at the wrong time. Then came the orbital fire. Beams of searing plasma lanced downward, raking across cities. In seconds, glass melted, steel sagged, and once proud towers bent like wax under a torch. Entire satellite constellations were wiped out, raining down like flaming meteors from orbit. It looked like victory, like conquest unfolding with fire and fury. Alien commanders leaned back in their thrones, voices dripping with pride. The humans will crawl from their holes now. They will beg us to stop. But Earth did not beg. On the surface, humanity moved, with chilling precision. When the first sirens wailed, civilians didn't scatter in panic, they disappeared underground in silence. Families hurried into bunkers, hidden beneath suburbs. Trains sealed their tunnels, carrying entire neighborhoods deep below bedrock. The bombardments fell, but the streets were already empty. In New York, skyscrapers crumbled, but not onto packed avenues. The avenues had been deserted. In Tokyo, flames licked against office towers, but the shelters below had already sealed. In London, the Thames boiled as orbital lances struck, but the tunnels beneath the city became veins of refuge, filled with quiet breathing and clenched fists. From orbit, it looked like devastation. From the ground, it felt like waiting. Alien troops, monitoring their scans, grew uneasy. On other worlds, bombarded cities screamed. There was chaos, panic, desperate signals begging for mercy. Here, there was nothing, only silence. Where are the emergency broadcasts? One Veillock operator hissed. Where are the distress signals? None came. Instead, across every continent, Earth's lights went dark, not from destruction but by choice. One by one, cities extinguished themselves. Grids collapsed in planned shutdowns, leaving only shadows. The aliens saw it and smiled cruelly. They've lost their power. They've surrendered their world to the dark. But the truth was far more dangerous. The humans weren't surrendering their light. They were hiding it. Above the Pacific, a massive Arcroth battleship hovered, its cannons still dripping plasma. Its commander gazed down at the smoldering seas, laughing. This is what comes of weakness. They never should have stood alone. And yet, in the back of his mind, unease stirred. Why had the humans not screamed? Why had they not begged? Instead, they had vanished, as though they were waiting for something on Earth. In the silence beneath the rubble, soldiers crouched in their bunkers. Their radios were dark, but their hands were steady. Across continents, entire armies sat in shadow, watching the skies burn with alien fire. One commander whispered into the gloom, "Let them keep firing. Let them believe we are broken. Every second they waste brings them closer to our teeth." Above them, the bombardment continued, merciless and triumphant. The aliens thought themselves gods, but in truth, they were only feeding the storm that was coming. The bombardment had ended. Alien commanders expected to see smoking craters filled with desperate survivors, begging for mercy. Instead, their scans revealed emptiness. Whole cities stood silent. Roads were barren. The ruins they had struck so proudly were not filled with chaos but stillness. And so the coalition gave its next order: land the troops, secure the planet, claim the spoils. The first wave of transports descended like iron rain. Massive troop carriers plunged through the clouds, releasing swarms of armored mechs, shock troops, and hover tanks. Their shadows spread across shattered cities, black stains moving over the ruins. In New York, alien war mechs, the size of buildings, stomped into the avenues, their metal feet cracking the pavement. In Tokyo, insectoid legions scuttled through narrow alleys, their claws tearing into collapsed walls. In Paris, reptilian shock troopers marched in formation, plasma rifles gleaming in the smoke. They expected, terrified, humans to scatter from hiding. They found only silence. The first trap was sprung in Manhattan as an Arcroth mech squad advanced. Down a deserted street, its sensors flickered, motion faint behind the windows. Then, the towers themselves collapsed inward. Entire skyscrapers, pre-rigged with charges, folded like jaws closing around prey. The mechs screamed in distorted electronic tones as the concrete and steel came down, crushing them in an avalanche from the rubble. Hidden drones swarmed sleek, human-built machines, darting between the wreckage, cutting down the survivors with precision fire. The defenseless humans had turned their city into a weapon. In Tokyo, it was worse. The insectoid Veilok troops marched confidently into what they thought were ruins. But every alley was seeded with hidden turrets, every sewer rigged with explosives. When the invaders advanced, entire districts detonated, collapsing into caverns below. Entire swarms were swallowed by fire and smoke. The survivors scrambled in panickingly to be met by shadows moving with purpose. Human soldiers, emerging from hidden tunnels, rifles crackling with suppressed fire. They moved as if the streets were their own veins, because they were. Paris was no different. Reptilian shock troops marched proudly down the Champs-Élysées, banners unfurled in mocking triumph. But the moment they reached the Arc de Triomphe, the ground itself exploded. Mines buried deep beneath centuries of stone ignited, splitting the boulevard open. From hidden emplacements, missiles screamed upward, tearing through the invaders, dropships before they could unload reinforcements. The coalition's commanders snarled in disbelief. They had come expecting easy prey. Instead, every city was a labyrinth of death. The Arkwrath warlord pounded his fist on his throne, snarling through tusks. Where is their army? Where are their soldiers? The answer came through broken transmissions. We cannot find them. They strike and vanish. The streets themselves fight us. On every continent, the invaders were discovering the same truth. Humanity had turned its cities into traps, its ruins into weapons, its silence into a snare. The humans weren't defending their world like prey. They were hunting their invaders like predators. From a bunker beneath the ruins of London, a human general watched the reports flicker across a darkened display. Alien casualties were climbing fast. Entire regiments had vanished in ambushes. He smiled grimly. "Let them keep searching," he whispered. "Every step they take brings them deeper into our jaws." Above, in the burning sky, alien fleets still hovered, convinced of their superiority. But below, in the ash and rubble, the first stage of Earth's trap had been sprung, and the galaxy's so-called predators had just walked into it willingly. The coalition was growing restless. Their ground forces were being bled dry in city after city, swallowed by collapsing buildings, tunnels that erupted into fire, and human shadows striking from the dark. Casualties rose higher than any commander would admit aloud. Still, the warlords comforted themselves with one truth. Earth had no fleet, as long as the skies belonged to the coalition. Humanity's resistance was only delay, and so they ordered their ships to tighten orbit, closing in for the kill. That was when Earth answered at first. It came as a tremor. Over the Rockies, mountainsides split apart with thunderous cracks. What looked like cliffsides crumbled away, revealing cavernous hangars that had slept for decades. From within, dark shapes surged into the sky, sleek, angular aircraft, unlike anything the invaders had seen. Their hulls shimmered with stealth coatings, their engines howling with fury as they pierced the clouds. Across Siberia, silos hidden for generations yawned open, their lids sliding away to reveal weapons that had never been fired in human wars. Hypersonic missiles screamed upward, leaving trails of burning white across the sky. Over the Pacific, entire cargo freighters rose from the waves, hulls splitting apart to reveal concealed launch decks. Dozens of drones launched in formation, their eyes burning red as they locked onto orbital signatures above. Earth's sky was no longer silent. It was alive. The first strikes caught the coalition completely off guard. An Arkwrath carrier, vast as a floating city, was torn apart in seconds. 3 hypersonic warheads ripped through its armor, detonating deep inside its reactor core. From orbit, the detonation bloomed like a second sun, the wreckage scattering across the black void. A Veilok swarm ship, its carapace bristling with thousands of troops waiting to deploy, was shredded mid-atmosphere by a wave of stealth bombers. The sky over Europe rained with fire as burning insectoid husks fell screaming to the ground above the Pacific. A reptilian dreadnought attempted to bring its plasma cannons to bear only for an asteroid mining rig, reprogrammed and repurposed to hurl a tungsten slug the size of a skyscraper directly into its flank. The ship split in two, spilling burning wreckage into the ocean below. Alien commanders shouted over broken transmissions, panic replacing arrogance. Where did they hide these weapons? This planet was unarmed. They were supposed to be weak, but the truth was undeniable. Earth had never been defenseless. It had simply been patient. Every mountain was a hangar, every silo a waiting fang, every freighter, every drilling rig, every shadow of infrastructure had been designed not for peace, but for this moment. The helpless planet had spent generations hiding its arsenal, waiting for the day the galaxy came to take what wasn't theirs. And now, the trap was closing. From a command bunker deep beneath Colorado, a human general stood as the reports came in. His face was carved from stone, his voice low and cold. "Do not stop," he ordered. "Every ship in orbit is a target. Every invader who steps foot here dies." Around him, officers worked in silence, their eyes burning with the same fire as the weapons they had unleashed. For them, this was not conquest. It was justice. Above, the skies burned as alien fleets crumbled. Below, the cities still seethed with ambushes. Humanity had revealed only a fraction of its hand. Already the coalition was breaking. The galaxy had called Earth weak, but weakness does not hide arsenals and mountains. Weakness does not wait silently in the dark. Weakness does not strike with precision, fury, and patience all at once. No, this was not weakness. This was awakening. The coalition was bleeding. Carriers burned in orbit. Swarm ships lay shattered across the seas, and dreadnoughts drifted as glowing wrecks. Yet the warlords clung to a single hope. Earth's fury could not last forever. Their fleets still outnumbered humanity's hidden weapons. Numbers, they told themselves, would smother defiance, but they had not realized Earth was never fighting alone. The whole system was waiting. It began with the asteroids, mining stations in the belt, seemingly abandoned relics of human industries, flickered to life. Vast mass drivers rotated, humming with power. Then, with a roar that shook their steel frames, they began flinging iron and rock into space at impossible speeds. Coalition ships laughed when they first detected the incoming projectiles, mere rocks. But laughter turned to screams as the first asteroid slug, traveling faster than sound could even exist in vacuum, tore through a cruiser, splitting it neatly in half. One by one, the mining rigs became artillery, turning the asteroid belt into a gauntlet of death. At Jupiter, storms hid another secret. For decades, human probes had slipped unnoticed into the planet's clouds, burrowing deeper, planting devices. Now, swarms of stealth craft erupted from the cover of the gas giant, their dark holes invisible against the storming atmosphere. They struck like hornets, unleashing salvo after salvo into unsuspecting coalition carriers that had strayed too close. From the surface of Europa, hidden silos fired torpedoes upward, vanishing into Jupiter's shadow before slamming into enemy fleets. Coalition commanders cursed. Humanity had turned a gas giant into an ambush. And then Mars woke. The red planet had long been dismissed as barren, lifeless, irrelevant. But beneath its dust, hidden launch silos yawned open. Dozens, hundreds, missiles screamed upward, cutting through orbit to carve burning holes in the invaders' formations. Drones, long disguised as survey satellites, came alive, turning their cameras into targeting systems and their thrusters into weapons. Entire regiments of alien transports attempting to land on Mars were incinerated mid-descent, their wreckage staining the sky crimson. Mars had not been abandoned. It had been armed. The final blow came at Saturn, a massive coalition dreadnought, wounded, but still proud limped toward the planet's rings, seeking to regroup. Its hull burned, but its cannons still glowed, eager to lash out one more time. But Saturn was no sanctuary. As the ship drifted into the rings, human mining platforms hidden among the ice and rock activated, firing thrusters that nudged massive chunks of frozen stone into the dreadnought's path. The alien crew screamed as their vessel was torn apart, each fragment of the rings becoming a blade of ice, slicing metal and flesh alike. The wreckage burned, carving fiery scars across Saturn's eternal bands, what the coalition thought of as nature. Humanity had turned into a weapon. From Earth's bunkers, generals watched the feeds, silent and grim. One of them finally spoke. They came here thinking we were a planet. Let them learn we are a system. And so the truth spread across the void. Earth was not an isolated blue world, waiting to be conquered. It was the heart of a fortress that stretched from Mercury's burning plains to the frozen dark of Pluto. Every rock, every moon, every storm was a blade in humanity's hands. The invaders had not trapped Earth, they had trapped themselves. Inside humanity's web, the coalition was breaking. Their fleets burned across the solar system. Their troops were swallowed in citywide traps. Every advance was met with fire, silence, and death. And yet, still, they clung to disbelief. This cannot be humanity. This cannot be the defenseless species. So they demanded proof. Captured humans would reveal the truth. Surely, beneath the weapons and tricks, there was weakness. Surely, the prey remained prey. They were wrong. On board a Veilok command vessel, a group of prisoners was dragged into the light. Humans mud-stained, bloodied, but standing tall. The insectoid commander leaned forward, mandibles clicking. "Tell us," he hissed, "where did your weapons come from? Who aids you? What empire protects this backwater world?" The humans stared at him in silence. One, a scarred soldier, finally spoke. His voice was calm, steady, almost pitying. "No one protects us. No one arms us. We are alone." Laughter erupted across the chamber, hissing and chittering, but the laughter faltered as the humans' eyes met theirs. They were not the eyes of prey. They were the eyes of predators waiting in the dark, on Earth's surface. The masks slipped further from the ruins of cities. Human soldiers poured forth not in chaotic militias, but in disciplined formations. Their armor was battered, but efficient. Their rifles humming with captured and modified alien tech. They fought with precision, moving like ghosts through the ruins. Alien units that had once mocked humanity's silence now found themselves stalked, isolated, picked off one by one. In New York, a squad of humans climbed atop the wreck of a fallen mech, their banner-ragged but proud raised high against the burning sky. In Paris, entire regiments surged from underground catacombs, their rifles cutting down reptilian shock troops with surgical accuracy. In Tokyo, drones guided by human hands swarmed alien carriers, detonating in synchronized sacrifice. The coalition saw, at last, humanity had not been cowering. Humanity had been preparing. From orbit, the alien warlords finally understood the scale of their mistake. This was not chance, one whispered. This was not desperation. No, another said, voice trembling. This was planned. For years, decades, they wanted us to come. The mask had fallen. The truth was revealed. Humanity had not been a defenseless planet. Humanity had been a predator in waiting, sharpening its claws in silence, letting the galaxy forget its bite in a bunker beneath Washington. A human general addressed his staff, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. They believed we were too weak to matter. They believed we were a forgotten world, ripe for conquest. He gestured to the burning skies on the screens above them. They believed wrong, and across the planet, across the system, the same truth echoed in silence and fire. Humanity was no longer hiding. On board their fractured fleets, the coalition's soldiers began to break. Some wept, some raged, some whispered prayers to gods that could not hear them, for they had seen what lurked behind Earth's mask, and it was not prey, it was vengeance. The coalition was unraveling. What had begun as an alliance of predators was now a cage of frightened animals. Every day, more ships burned. Every night, more troops vanished into Earth's shadows, never to return. The warlords who once laughed, now shouted over one another, their voices cracking with fear. And still, humanity pressed forward. For the first time in its history, Earth went on the offensive. It began in orbit, from hidden shipyards buried beneath Earth's oceans, hulking silhouettes rose human warships, long kept secret, cobbled from generations of quiet preparation. Their hulls bore the scars of recycled steel, their engines glowed with stolen alien tech, fused to human ingenuity. They were crude, brutal, unrefined, and utterly deadly. The first wave cut through the coalition, lines like blades through flesh. Salvaged plasma cannons belched fire. Railguns mounted on frames of welded scrap punched holes through armored cruisers. Fleets that once dwarfed Earth now found themselves torn apart by a force they hadn't believed existed. The coalition cracked. The Valak blamed the Arkroth for rushing into the invasion without proper scouting. The Arkroth blamed the Reptilians for failing to hold the ground war. The Reptilians snarled at both, swearing betrayal. And in that chaos, humanity struck again. Over Africa, 3 coalition fleets clashed with each other, accusations of treachery boiling over into cannon fire. When the first shots were fired, the humans did not hesitate. Stealth bombers swept through the chaos, picking apart crippled ships as the aliens slaughtered each other. Above South America, a massive swarm ship was caught mid-refuel, its escort distracted by arguments over strategy. A human cruiser barely patched together. Its hull scorched drove itself headlong into the swarm ship's flank, detonating a warhead so powerful it split the vessel in two. The night sky burned as alien wreckage rained down like meteors. On the ground, the collapse was worse. With no unity, the invaders faltered. Their lines broke. Some commanders tried to retreat. Others tried to hold cities already crawling with human resistance. Few survived either choice. In Moscow, alien legions attempting to regroup found themselves cut off by human militias armed with scavenged plasma rifles. In Sydney, an alien command post was overrun by farmers who had turned their equipment into weapons. In Cairo, whole enemy platoons simply surrendered, eyes hollow, spirits broken. The warlords screamed in desperation. This was supposed to be a simple conquest. They are a single planet, why do they not fall? They are not a planet, another muttered, trembling. They are a nightmare, we awakened. And the nightmare was spreading from Earth's command bunkers. The generals watched the coalition eat itself alive. Their orders were cold, precise, merciless. Strike every weakness. Exploit every fracture. Show them there is no escape. And so humanity's vengeance fell like fire from every direction. The once mighty coalition, built on greed and arrogance, now lay in pieces. Above the smoldering Earth, the stars were filled with fire. Alien ships burst like dying suns. Wreckage fell endlessly, glowing meteors streaking across every ocean, every continent. Children watched from bunkers as the night sky burned, not with fear, but with awe. Humanity was not falling. Humanity was rising. In the void, silence spread among the coalition survivors. For the first time, they understood the truth. Earth had never been defenseless, and now, it had shown the galaxy the cost of forgetting. The invasion was over. What had begun as a chorus of warlords laughing at an undefended planet had ended in silence, broken only by the crackling fires of their wreckage drifting across the void. Of the thousands of ships that had descended upon Earth, only a fraction remained, limping, broken, desperate to flee. The coalition that once called itself unstoppable had been reduced to ash and betrayal, and the humans were still standing. The last battles were merciless. A crippled Arkwrath dreadnought tried to flee toward the edge of the solar system, its engines sputtering. But before it could escape, a wave of human strike craft surged from Neptune's shadow. They swarmed the vessel like wolves upon a wounded beast, tearing it apart until nothing but glowing fragments remained in orbit over the Atlantic. A Veilok swarm ship attempted to surrender. Its mandible-legged commander broadcast pleas of mercy across every channel. But Earth did not respond with words, only with silence, followed by the blinding light of warheads. The swarm ship vanished in a storm of fire, for humanity had learned something the galaxy had forgotten. Mercy mistaken for weakness invites ruin. On Earth's surface, the last pockets of resistance collapsed. Cities once scarred by bombardment now roared with human counterattacks. Soldiers emerged from bunkers, militias rose from the ruins, and drones hunted stragglers through the shadows. In London, captured alien mechs were paraded through the street, scars of conquest turned into symbols of defiance. In New York, families emerged from shelters to find their banners flying atop the ruins of alien strongholds. In Cairo, crowds filled the streets, chanting a single truth: Earth endures. The survivors of the coalition finally broke. Fleets scattered. Troops abandoned their commanders. Warlords screamed in rage as their empires dissolved before their eyes. And as they fled into the void, they carried with them a story, a warning that would spread faster than any weapon. The warning was simple: Earth is not defenseless. From orbit, the planet glowed with scars. Oceans still churned black with ash. Cities lay broken and burning. But one by one, lights returned. Power grids reawakened. Towers lit up again, defiantly piercing the darkness. Humanity, bloodied but unbroken, was rising from the ruins, stronger than before, and above the planet. Among the fields of wreckage, human warships now drifted. Ships that had once been hidden. Ships that were now armed, awake, and watching the stars. The galaxy had come to take Earth's life. Instead, it had given Earth a new one, a place not as prey, but as predator. In the quiet of a bunker, a general looked at his officers. His voice was calm, but iron ran through every word. "They thought us weak," he said. "They thought us prey. Let this be a message written in fire across the stars. We will never bow, we will never break, and we will never forgive." No one answered. They didn't need to. The truth was already carved into the void above them. Far away, in the darkest corners of the galaxy, whispers began. Stories of a world that had lured invaders into a trap. A world that had turned silence into a weapon, patience into power, survival into vengeance. They called it Earth, and now they called it feared.